Today is February 10th, and we will be joined by our dear friend, the voice of the New York Yankees, Michael Kay, to talk about the Yanks. Let's do it!
Talking Yanks with old John Boy and Jake. Recaps galore, weekly awards, stat lines, semen hot takes. Get your Yankees news from these two fine dudes. It's time for Talking Yanks. Talking Yanks with old John Boy and Jake. Talking Yanks with old John Boy and Jake.
Okay, hello and welcome to Talkin' Yanks, brought to you by SeatGeek. My name is Jimmy. Sitting next to me is Jake, and in the corner we have producer BBD. And we're not going to make the intro too long because we had a really fun conversation with Michael Kay, a friend of the program. And Jake, you didn't say a single word the whole time.
No, I kept waiting for my turn to jump in. It just never happened.
No,
so
me and Kay had a nice conversation.
You won't hear me.
Jake listened.
Man, I'm going to be honest with the people if that's okay.
Yep.
I think the first 20, 25 minutes, we yucked it up. It was kind of radio show. It was, what's going on in baseball, some lockout stuff, some Yankee stuff. The next 25 to 30, I mean, it was almost like we did a home and home. Like it was the Michael Kay show, and then it was like pure Talking Yanks. Like we got pretty silly with it. Kayster giggling into the mic, which is a big thing for me and Kay. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean that was awesome.
The history there is the second time we interviewed Michael Kay in person at winter meetings. Jake made him laugh, but he was such a professional that he was able to turn his mouth away from the phone, and they laughed into like blank space, and it was like, "Hey, come on now." But this is just a Zoom, so he can nowhere to hide.
Nowhere to hide, baby.
Nowhere to hide. It's brought to you by DraftKings. Obviously, we're coming to you from the DraftKings studios. You've seen our beautiful mics. Wow. A lot of color on this piece of paper I'm holding. You seen this?
I did see that. I'm not sure what was going on. Oh, we're out of black ink.
We're out of black ink.
Oh, okay.
All our ad reads this week, I have changed to either blue or
for those listening, this is coming to you in a beautiful green ink. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use promo code JOHNBOY. You get 56-1 odds on either team. Bet just $5 and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code JOHNBOY at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 56. Get your timer ready. 21 plus minimum age and location requirements vary by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for full list of requirements and state-specific responsible gaming resources. Void where prohibited. Gambling problem. 1-800-GAMBLER. And in Tennessee, call or text the TN Red Line 1-800-889-9789. In Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat. In New York, call 888-778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Terrible job by me. Don't even tell me the number. I'm not interested. Don't tell me. I'm not interested. I did an awful job. I was higher than my best for sure.
Oh yeah, I think you got a sub 20.
Yes. So that was
and the 3 have counted.
Bad job by me. And on that note, we'll send it to the interview with Michael Kay. Baseball.
We are joined by friend of the program and nephew of actor Danny Aiello, Michael Kay. Kayster, how are you?
I'm great, guys. How you doing?
Good. I feel like you used that before.
It's the first line in your wiki.
It is?
First line in the wiki for Michael Kay.
We got to change that. Voice of the New York Yankees.
You got to be careful with the wiki because, there's one line in there that says Michael Kay's sister dates Bob Lorenz.
So we're putting...
So anybody could put anything in Wikipedia.
Jake's nickname on Wikipedia used to be No Pecker, Storielli.
Yeah, that was weird.
So some stuff is accurate.
Yeah. It's a weird mix on there. You never know.
Oh, man. Kay, are you feeling... What are your... I mean, I'm getting to the point where usually I see Valentine's Day and my brain thinks catchers and pitchers and spring training. And I go back and forth, optimistic and sad and pessimistic and optimistic and all that. But are you itching at all? I know you've been living a baseball life for so long now. Do you still get those spring training, fun thoughts that I get? Will I continue to have them, or they fade?
No, they don't. They don't fade, especially at the beginning of the season. Probably you run into a little bit of a downturn maybe at the All-Star break because the season is long. But at the beginning, it's all like new and real, and you look forward to it. And I'm still the kid that grew up 10 minutes from Yankee Stadium. So how would I ever complain about spring training starting? So yeah, you get pumped, but unfortunately, there seems to be a little bit of a problem this year. So I don't think they're going to start on time.
A little bit of a problem, yeah. Usually at this point, we're doing all of our, profiles on the roster and like the music blares, and it's exciting. And we'd use like the Major League soundtrack, and we thought about
music very similar to the Major League soundtrack.
Very similar,
Really similar.
Yeah. No, but and we thought about let's just we know Judge is going to be on the team. Let's just pre-record them, and we couldn't get ourselves to do it, because there's just no excitement, and it's been completely fake because that spring training excitement is just not even close.
Here's the way I look at it, though. So we're all going to get a little depressed because it's probably a fait accompli that they're not going to start spring training on time. I think you'd start to get a little bit worried if they don't have an agreement by the end of February, because then I think the March 31st date would be in trouble to start the season on time. But think of it this way. When they settle, and they are going to settle, I mean, baseball's not going to end. So when they settle, they're going to be 2 weeks like we've never seen before, where there are going to be 300 free agents that are going to be signed, and teams are going to have to make trades, and they have to make trades in a hurry. It's going to be a flurry. It's going to be like the best thing that could happen to baseball, where they will dominate the news cycle whenever this deal is done. And I think that's the thing to look forward to. Don't think about the negative. Think about the positive.
How much do you? Because I mean, you do the radio show, obviously, but how much do you keep up with like the day-to-day rumors? Like, do you like getting lost in it? Are you getting little whispers from behind the scenes, or are you more so like, this is gonna suck, let's buckle up for the good stuff whenever that happens?
Well, obviously with the trades and stuff, you do your own imagination, and you heard some whispers before December 1st what might be cooking. In terms of the negotiations, listen, I've gone through this a number of times, including the World Series being canceled in '94, and it's tiring, and it's tiring to take sides. Both sides. There's an agreement there. It's a $10 billion industry. You think that they could come up with a way to split it, and I'm sure that they will. But this is business. I don't get the one thing that I've gone away from is when I was younger, I used to look at it as a fan, and I'd get angry and stuff like that. But then when you realize that kids and younger people romanticize the whole thing, it is still very, very much a big money business, and it takes a long time to split this up and to come up with equitable ways to come up with a CBA. So that's the way I look at that. I've been following it, but they're just both sides are letting out what they want to let out. So I don't think we're getting any inside information.
Yeah, it's a little different than when they were in 2020, when it was just nonstop press release. They were bartering via press releases, basically. I wanted to ask about the 94 strike, because obviously I was 5 years old. I don't really remember it. Was that? This has been looming. It's at winter meetings of 2018. We were having conversations about the CBA ending and there being a lockout or a strike and the potential of it. And we were talking with agents and people, and everyone's saying, well, get ready. It's not going to be, they're not going to settle beforehand. Was it the same in 94 where it loomed forever and they knew the players were going to go on strike, or did that come out of nowhere for the public in a day and age when there wasn't social media?
No, there was a countdown, Jimmy. It was, they knew what was going on, and you just knew the date. And I think the players thought that there was no way that the owners wouldn't come to an agreement. And then it just didn't happen. And, I just remember the day, because I was doing the Yankees on the radio then, and the Yankees were really, really good. They were in first place. And the players just were in a daze. Guys like Paul O'Neill couldn't believe it. And, Mattingly was finally going to get his chance to maybe play in a World Series. They were all in a daze. They were all supportive of their union. But I think that they were really shocked. No one expected it to just be canceled. I think everybody expected there was going to be a work stoppage and expected that there might be somewhat of a a lull where there might not be baseball for a couple of weeks, but then everybody would come to their senses. But then when Bud Selig announced that they had to cancel the World Series, I remember at that point, Paul O'Neill called me up and said, "Is this really happening? And there's not going to be a World Series. Is this really happening?" And a lot of players just could not believe that it had come to that. I mean, that was the stunning part of it. The strike wasn't stunning. The fact that baseball canceled the World Series, that just shocked everybody. And I think to this day, it still stings.
I mean, are you? I guess, are you keeping that? When we were doing Talking Baseball the other day, we kind of, or I guess I kind of landed at. So I'm just looking for confirmation from you, as I do in my everyday life.
Smart.
Like the fact that they're coming off of the 2020 where they had a shortened season with the expanded playoffs. Like, do you think they have that already in their back pocket? Like if they do, the lockout does head into the season, they almost have a format of sorts. Like they just already did that. So I don't know if that's something in the owner's back pocket, or again, if I just dreamt something up and I'm looking for any confirmation.
I would think they'd have to, Jake. I mean, it would be smart business if obviously the start of the season is delayed. They have to decide how many games there going to be. What's the schedule going to be like? So I don't think that they could go into it blind and then, within a week have to come up with a schedule. So I'm sure they all have contingency plans, both sides, on what they would want and what it would look like. So yeah, I don't think they're flying blind on this, but I don't have any inside information on what they would do.
Fair.
When we get baseball back, and there is that, we bookended the lockout in the front end with free agent signings, and the back end, it seems like there's still a lot of trades and some free agent signings to be made. Now, we had Jack Curry on recently to promote his book about Paulie. I didn't do any tea leaving with Jack, tea leave reading, which is my favorite thing. I think Curry and I always read in the same sign. So I want to tell you the signs that I'm reading as an optimist Yankee fan, and then you tell me if I'm being too optimistic or you think I am onto something or whatever. And it's nothing. It's not like I'm, a master detective here. First thing that Cashman and the Yankees said, they said, we got to prioritize first base and
Center field. Which seems crazy because obviously shortstop is a shortstop in first base?
Shortstop is definitely
Shortstop.
What the priority?
They said something, but we knew that it was shortstop, center field, first base is like what Cashman said were priorities.
Right.
Then the next thing we learned was that they were in the bidding for Verlander, who's not one of the priorities they listed, and they were going to give him $25 million for a year or $50 million for 2 years or whatever it was, like big money for Verlander, who by their admission wasn't a priority. So as an optimistic Yankee fan, I'm saying, okay, well, they were ready to spend big on what they consider their fourth priority. So I'm expecting when we do close to get some fun signings and some fun trades and for them to go over the tax and spend. Am I being too optimistic or am I reading the situation correctly?
I don't think you could be optimistic or pessimistic until you know what the new luxury threshold is going to be. But, Hal Steinbrenner and his family have shown that once they get under the threshold for season, they will go over it. So I think they will spend some money. Obviously, Verlander's off the board because he did sign with Houston. That might have just been a one-off, guys. I think, everybody's always asking me about Carlos Correa. I don't think that they would go into Carlos Correa and give him 10 years and $350 million when two of the best prospects that they have and two of the top 100 prospects in all of baseball are shortstops in the Yankee system. But let's say that the short window that they have and Boris can't get an incredible long-term deal for Correa. Maybe he looks for a pillow deal. Maybe the Yankees could say, we'll give Correa $35 million for 1 year. That would be the perfect signing for them. And then maybe Volpe's ready or Peraza's ready. Again, just talking off the top of my head. So it all depends on length of contract. I don't think they want to lock themselves into a long term because they know that either when this window opens or at the end of the year, they're going to have to do something with Judge, and he's going to get a long-term deal. And then they still have Cole signed and they still have Stanton signed. And it's funny because, Yankee fans always react angrily when I say this stuff on my radio show. We know the Yankees are a big revenue team. that doesn't mean they're going to have a $400 million payroll. There's going to be a limit to what they're going to spend. So they have to look down the road. They can't just make deals and think about today. They have to think down the road and who's coming off their payroll as well. So I think, in my opinion, Jim, I think that their priority has to be first base, and I think they will try to make a deal for Matt Olson. And if they don't, they'll probably just bring back Rizzo. I don't know if shortstop is a priority in terms of getting a long-term guy. So, the one name that stands out to me, if you could get an Andrelton Simmons for 1 year to stem the tide and play great defense. And it's a little unusual with the center field situation because, maybe you make a deal with the Oakland A's with Olson and you include Ramon Laureano, something like that, and you send a lot of your prospects over to Oakland, but they still do have a center fielder that signed for 4 more years in Aaron Hicks. So does he become a fourth outfielder? I'm not quite sure. So there's so many unanswered questions. That's why I think that when the basic agreement is finally agreed upon, it's going to be unbelievable what teams are going to have to do in a short period of time. But I know that Cashman and his staff probably have all these contingencies laid out, and they're ready to go whenever they get the go ahead.
How do you, and if I've asked you this in past interviews, I'm sorry, but you mentioned Volpe and Peraza, and they're legit prospects. Like sometimes in Yankee land, we get caught in the echo chamber a little bit. My biggest example is they played a Chance Adams hype video while I was at a game at the stadium, and I was like, oh yes, it is time. It's Chance Adams Yankees. Volpe and Peraza, I mean, Volpe especially, he's starting to get like national top 10 prospect attention. Peraza, it seems like everyone you talk to says the same thing, like his glove is ready to play. It's how much he'll hit and do offensively at the big league level, which he had a huge minor league year, but people don't know what to do with that. I guess, how do you treat Yankees prospects? Do you, like you said, there's 2 shortstops there, so, you got your options. Prospects don't always pan out. Do you drink the Kool-Aid more than others? Like if you see a top 10 guy like that, like Glaber was also a top 10 guy, is that when you kind of turn on and like Brian Cashman has to have a plan for Anthony Volpe in the next 2-3 years?
I don't like to get caught up in prospects because most prospects, the vast majority of big time prospects don't make it. I mean, baseball is the hardest thing to actually figure out who's going to make it, who's going to not, especially before the draft. And you see a lot of, top draft picks don't make it. I mean, Clint Frazier was a 5th pick in the first round, and, he didn't make it with the Yankees. Maybe he'll make it with the Cubs, but it's just, it's a crapshoot. But I will tell you this, if you don't see the Yankees sign a long-term deal with a shortstop when baseball starts again, then they do believe in either Volpe or Peraza. I think that they're holding a spot for them rather than set up a blockade. And, I think it's laughable when Yankee fans say, well, we don't want Carlos Correa because, he cheated and that cost the Yankees. Well, okay, you get over it. You really do, because he's a top flight player. There are very few players with his skills. So the Yankees didn't have a farm system with 2 top flight shortstops ready to go. I think they would go after a guy like Correa. He'd be a perfect fit. He's got the personality for it. He's got the attitude for it. And Yankee fans would get over the fact that he was on the 2017 Astros.
I've been saying both those senses. 1, I don't want him. 2, I will get over it if he comes.
Yeah, most people are like you. I mean, That's it. You don't want him, but boy, if he hits 35 home runs, drives in 120 runs, all of a sudden he's going to be beloved. People hated Roger Clemens too. Kind of worked out. People hated Wade Boggs. Kind of worked out. People hated Johnny Damon. Worked out. I mean, baseball emotions are very fleeting. Sports emotions are fleeting. So. We'll see, but I believe that if they don't sign a long-term contract with a shortstop, then they do believe that Volpe or Peraza are definitely the future.
Yeah, I think we're kind of prepared for that, especially just looping back what Jimmy said with the center field and first base as Cashman initially addressed it. Yeah, I don't know. It's just going to be. You know it as well as anyone. Yankee fans are rabid right now. I mean, A, it's a little bit of lockout. B, it's a little bit not winning World Series. So if they go into next year with an Andrelton, or, Yankees love spitting a good Didi rumor, gets everyone happy. If it's clearly a stopgap shortstop, I mean, Yankee fans are going to be tense, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, because prospects, same thing. I just can't get into it, and younger generation, they're living now where they know all these prospects. When you were a fan, or I guess, when did that start for UK? Because for me, like when Robinson Cano came up, when Melky Cabrera came up, when Jabba Chamberlain came up, the only reason I knew their names were because 3 weeks before they got called up on radio and Yankee games, they started saying, "Oh, they got Cano down in AAA. He's doing well. You might see him soon." And that's the extent of my knowledge of Robinson Cano, the minor leaguer. Their top 10 lists weren't like out and about because there was no social media, and like on broadcast, you have to like get the prospectus or you have to go get the publications. Now it's just jammed down your throat, and I think puts more pressure on the prospects and illuminates how much more they don't pan out than when they do. When did that change? Or who was the first prospect for you that like kind of broke your heart that you were excited for and didn't come up?
Heartbreak.
The one prospect that we heard a lot about was Jesus Montero. He was a can't miss catcher. He was going to be great. And then they ended up trading him in a deal with Seattle. As I said earlier, most prospects don't make it. They don't. I remember growing up, being a Yankee fan, you'd get your prospect news in little paragraphs at the end of, the sporting news. And then the USA Today baseball, I forget what it was called, Baseball Today, something like that. They would have little minor league updates. That's about it. But you get your heart broken most of the time with homegrown players. And I think that teams do the right things by overhyping them because they want to use them and fool other teams. But now it's so hard to fool people. Like there's certain people I look at and I respect, like a guy like Keith Law. And he had a long thing in The Athletic the other day. And he said that he had made a mistake on Volpe when he was drafted. He said, I didn't see why. Most people in baseball didn't understand why the Yankees took him in the first round. Well, now he's his 10th ranked prospect. So if a guy as respected as Keith Law could actually swing and miss on something like that, baseball is so hard to extrapolate out to when they're 27 years old and they should be a star in the big leagues. We have no idea. We really don't. We drink the Kool-Aid like everybody else. And, nobody thought that Robinson Cano was going to be as great as he was. Remember, they called him up at the end of April because the Yankees were struggling. And it seemed like, let's take a crapshoot here and hope that he could change, the chemistry. And he did. He was outstanding, but nobody thought he was going to be that outstanding. So sometimes they take you by surprise. Remember when Judge hit the home run in his first game, the other guy who hit the home run before him was Tyler Austin. Mm-hmm. One guy made it, one guy didn't. So you never know.
Tyler Austin's doing big things overseas right now, so I guess that's a shot at Judge. No, and changing the note a little bit. I guess I already changed the note. Keith Law, if me and Jimmy and BBD, if we all went to a dinner together, would he like us or hate us by the end of the night?
I don't think he likes me.
Oh, wow.
I don't think he would like you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think he sees things in black and white, and I think you guys see things in a kaleidoscope of color.
Yeah, well, one time I referred to arbitration years as under team control because they kind of are. And I stand by that they kind of are. Like, you get 6 years with the team, 3 team control, 3 arbitration, but the team kind of has control of what happens there if they want it. And and if he heard me say this right now, he'd be like, no, it's not team control.
Black and white.
It's arbitration. And we got like a whole spat. And I was like, you don't understand like what I'm saying? And he was like, no. So I appreciate his rankings. I don't think he would like us.
It's impossible not to like you guys.
He needed that. Yeah, I mean, his Twitter bio, he still has joy removal machine.
Yeah.
And I feel like my goal is the opposite. So
yeah.
I don't know. I think it could be a good yin and yang
Yeah,
thing.
you guys would be great. It could be a great combination.
Short kings.
I wanted to ask about the baseballs behind your head.
Yeah.
Are those signed? Are they memorabilia?
They're all signed, yes.
Do you have a favorite?
Well, the bottom row here, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
Those are all broadcasters like Vin Scully and Ernie Harwell and Bob Uecker and Dick Enberg and stuff like that. And other ones like this, Bruce Springsteen. I hate to ask players for autographs. I hate it. I know I'm infringing upon their time. So these are either given to me or it's somebody that wasn't a player. I just think there's a line between a broadcaster and a player that you really shouldn't broach, or break. But these are all people that I met over the years that meant something to me and meant something, throughout my career. So let's see, there's 6. There's 48 of them there. That was the size of the box that my wife got me.
Never be
So I
able to
put
do math
48
that
in there.
quick. That was impressive.
Now, there's one ball that I don't have there, and I would never say where it is because I think it actually could pay for Charlie or Callie's college education. When the Yankees swept the San Diego Padres in 1998, and they ended up 125-50. They had after the fourth game, they didn't plan to leave San Diego until after the fifth game. You can't be that cocky. So they actually had a big party after game 4 at the hotel, and everybody got on the plane the next day, and players were passing around baseballs because this was the greatest team ever, and they were passing around baseball, getting everybody to sign it. So there was a pearl baseball there, and I picked it up. I was traveling with the team as a broadcaster, and I just, I passed it around, and all the players signed it. But the one guy that the players didn't get to sign it, and I did, was sitting in the front row, and I walked up to him, and I said, Mr. Steinbrenner, would you sign this ball?
Wow.
He said, what? Why do you want me to sign it? I said, you own the team. Okay, I'll sign it. So it's got him and every player on the team and Joe Torre. So I keep that hidden because I'm sure if it was up here and people saw it, they'd break into my house and take it. But that's probably the most valuable ball I have.
Is that the happiest flight that has ever happened in baseball? I mean, they're literally passing around balls saying, hey, we better sign these because we're the best team that's ever played.
It was a pretty cool flight. It was a complete diametric opposite of the 1995 flight back from Seattle, which I always call the flying funeral. That was the saddest flight I've ever been on. I mean, people weeping, players just coming up and hugging Mattingly and like crying. And he was the one who was keeping it together, but they knew that was it for him. That was awful. And then, the flight from San Diego was just, when are we going for the ticker tape parade? That sort of deal. There was just total joy. Because there was a lot of relief, too. Paul O'Neill had told me, if we don't win this year, the whole thing doesn't count. The 114 wins don't count. Everything is gone. So when they went down 2-1 to Cleveland, remember, they were tight, man. They were really, really tight. And I've told this story before. I used to do the pregame hit with a player on the radio. And it used to be hell to ask Paul to do it. He just doesn't like to do that stuff. So they're down 2-1 to the Indians, and I'm walking around the clubhouse, and he taps me on the shoulder. He goes, interview me. I said, what? He said, interview me. I said, why? He said, we got to change the luck here. We got to change the luck. So I interviewed him, and they won. And if you remember, after they were down 2-1 to Cleveland, they never lost again. But because he's such a superstitious freak, every game he made me interview him. Every single one. He would seek me out. Interview me again, Michael. I can't keep interviewing. You can't break the luck.
Well, he hit a home run in game 4, so it was like team luck and him.
Right. So right through that fourth game in San Diego, even though by the end he was getting sick of me, I said, you're the one who wants this, not me. He goes, all right. And like he just, and it ended up being the good luck charm for him in his mind. So whatever works.
Man.
Awesome. And I love Mr. Steinbrenner there asking you why you want him to sign the ball. Just because I think he wanted to hear you say it.
Yeah, I think he wanted
Just
to.
because, you own the team. Yeah.
Nobody, I'll tell you what, nobody was more fun to talk to after they won. And you avoided them after they lost because then, you fast forward to 2001 and Mariano blows, the game in the 9th inning against the Diamondbacks. And, Mariano stood in front of his locker, I'd say, for 50 minutes, answering question after question like a real gentleman. And like 5 feet away from him was George Steinbrenner with his arms crossed, just staring at all the media and staring at Mo. And like, he's just so angry. And they had just won like 4 World Series in a row. But, all he cared about was winning. And he was really angry that day. So I didn't go up to him on a plane that day. I'll tell you that.
Now you're in the booth with Paulie, so we'll pivot it here because we got big news, Paulie's book, and then big news, K-Rod, Coney, the Yes crew. Everyone's just kind of doing big and fun things. We had a lot of, we did it on air. We were trying to figure out your schedule, so I don't know how open you are about that. I want to know. We're missing you now on Yankees games a little bit sometimes. Are we? But how did that come to be? Did the
K-Rod stuff?
Yeah, the K-Rod stuff. Did they say, we got A-Rod, do you want to do this? They say, hey, did they place you first? Or I don't know. Any insight?
I was, the breakdown is this. I was up for the main spot on Sunday Night Baseball, the one that Carl Ravage ended up getting. So I mean, there were different permutations of that, and that would have made my life really, really difficult, and it would have cut back on how many Yankee games I do. And I didn't specifically want that to happen. But it would have been hard to turn down the main gig on Sunday Night Baseball because I always wondered how my act would play nationally.
Mm-hmm.
But then Carl ended up getting it, and then A-Rod was out of the mix on that, and ESPN wanted to keep Alex. So they started to think about how they could keep Alex, and then the the success of the Manning cast got them to thinking. And because I was like one of the finalists in the running for the main gig on Sunday night, they see my radio show up in Bristol, and most of the people in Bristol watch the Yes Network constantly because they're Yankee fans. I mean, Jimmy Pitaro, the president of ESPN, is a gigantic Yankee fan. And they said they threw it past Alex. What do you think of this? And how about Kay? He goes, that's the only guy I would do it with, which is nice. So they called and asked me, what would you think of this? And I said, that'd be perfect because it's like 8 to 10 games and I don't have to travel. And I could still do the Yankee game on a Sunday and just go down to the ESPN studios and do the K-Rod cast. And so Norby Williamson, the head of programming at ESPN, he's the one who asked me if I would consider it. And I said, yeah. And then I jokingly said, we could call it K-Rod. And he goes, I like it. But Norby's a big Met fan. And he goes, it would just make me think of K. Rodriguez. He goes, I don't know if I could do that. And I said, no, I just threw it out there. So then when they officially announced it after the contracts were signed, ESPN's official announcement was K-Rod cast. That was my first, my throwaway line actually was the name of the cast. So that's how it came about. And I'm looking forward to it. I think it could be fun.
I have heard K-Rod a bunch, and I was going to ask a question about it. K-Rod, the closer, didn't pop into my brain at all. I guess I'm not a Mets fan, or
good.
Or I kind of blew my mind that it didn't pop in my brain when you just said it because it is that. I was wondering if Alex Rodriguez was okay with you getting top billing, like was he pushing for AK?
You know what? I thought about that because he should get top billing. He's certainly the star in the show. But, it's playing off A-Rod. So I guess I could thank the late Dave Niehaus. He's the guy who came up with A-Rod, and then that played into K-Rod. And,
I think you deserve
Alex, is accepting of things that you might not think he'd be accepting of. So I actually thought about that, too. Top billing would be Rod K, which doesn't work. But it turned out to be K-Rod because it works.
And hey, this is a slippery slope for me because you know a little bit about Jimmy, and he could ask you questions about all of this production stuff. We could go for hours and hours. I guess how much has been talked about the actual broadcast, and I don't know if there's anything you can or can't say, but everyone knows the Manning cast at this point. You got Peyton and Eli. They're dressed down a little bit, and they're bringing on guests. I mean, are we copying and paste as much as we can? But you and A-Rod are both going to be in Bristol, or will Rod not be there?
Well, the first game, from what I'm hearing, is going to be the Sunday nighter in April, Yankees and Red Sox at the stadium. So since that will be the first K-Rod cast, we might actually do that one at the stadium. But otherwise, we'll be separated like Eli and Peyton were.
Okay.
For the most part. So they'll either set up something in my home. They'll definitely set up something in Alex's home in Florida. He travels a lot anywhere. In the games that I have to do let's say the Yankees are in Kansas City on a Sunday, and then I have a K-Rod cast that night, they'll set the whole thing up at a hotel conference room where I'll be there and Alex will be somewhere else. So, and when we're at home and it's not a Yankee game, then I would go from a Yankee game and just travel to the ESPN Seaport studios in Manhattan, and they'll have a setup there. So, and then we'll have to set up the guests the way, Eli and Peyton had their guests set up as well. So there's going to be a lot of moving parts, but they've done it before. And the Manning cast is not the first time they've done this. They used to do the coaches cast.
Yeah.
All that with the college football playoffs. So this is something that they're pretty good at, and the technology is getting better. And as I watched the Manning cast, guys, which I really, really enjoyed, the only thing that would get me uncomfortable, maybe because I'm in the business, they kept stepping on each other, and there was a delay. And my one thing that when I was talking to the people at ESPN, I said we really have to tighten that up, because it makes it uncomfortable to listen to, where the guest is stepping on them and then they stop and then they go back. And I think they'll clean that up. And also because Eli and Peyton have like 4 or 5 cameras in their house to get different angles. It's not going to be that extensive, so there'll be less of a chance of a delay.
Are you excited by the fact of like not having to slip into play-by-play, or are you worried that you might naturally slip into play-by-play?
I was told that I don't have to do play-by-play. I'm free to do it. I was told that if you want to do it, the best way, do it a combination of Michael Kay on the radio and Michael Kay at center stage, where it's just 2 guys sitting in a ballpark with maybe a third person coming in every now and then and just talking about the game, but without specifics. I might say a guy gets hit by a pitch. I'll just say to A-Rod, you got hit a lot in your career. Why do guys get hit? And just stuff like that, rather than saying line drive to right field, there's a throw. Maybe toward the end of the game, I'll get into more specific play-by-play. But really, if you want play-by-play, you just go up one to ESPN, and Carl and Eduardo and David will be doing that. This is going to be like a talk show format around a game.
One time in 2004, because I was living in Connecticut, I have a good memory because I moved every 2 years. You were calling a Yankees game, obviously, and the broadcast went out. So it's just a black screen on Yes Network. And you said, "Oh, I'm hearing that there's technical difficulties on your screens at home, so I'm going to slip into radio play-by-play for a moment." And then you did like 2 at bats in radio play-by-play. And my high school brain was the first time I understood the difference between radio play-by-play and TV play-by-play. And it blew my brain. And I was like, that was impressive. And then the feed came back, but you were still doing radio. And I was like, whoa. And like Jake said, I'm a nerd for the behind the scenes stuff and the technical broadcast. And that was like the first time I was like, whoa, this is like really professional what he's doing up there. Like to just go switch back and forth like that. So I think, it's cool that you'll probably be able to make the switch from conversation to play-by-play pretty naturally.
I'm excited about it. I think we might have I think it's going to be judged very harshly because you either love A-Rod or you don't. There's usually not a lot of gray. We'll see how it's received, but I think they're not going to cut Alex any breaks, and certainly I'm at times with some of the radio and TV guys, I'm not a favorite. So I think they're going to look at it with quite a discerning eye. So I think that for the first couple of K-Rod casts, I'll probably not check Twitter because I think that would make your head explode. But I'll just try to have fun with it. And that's what the people at ESPN want me to do. And I love watching a baseball game, even if I'm not doing it. So now I'm going to be watching it with a guy with 696 home runs. And I think the one thing, my number one job in this, guys, I don't know if you've ever had a chance to talk to Alex, not as like, Alex the player or, on TV. He's a baseball savant. Like he's kind of a baseball nerd and really loves the game and knows the history of the game. And if I could show that side of him where he's just like nerding out about, well, this is how I pick up the spin and stuff like that, rather than like, having statistics and talking points he wants to get to, just me and him going back and forth, very freewheeling, then I would have succeeded. And I think that that cast will be a success.
Yeah, there's moments you had him in the Yes booth, and I remember tweeting out like, I wish this was Sunday Night Baseball, A-Rod, when it's just hit actual off the cuff baseball knowledge, not reading the note that he just got passed.
It's funny you mentioned that because when they decided to pair us together, that one time we had him in the booth, Jimmy, was Yankees Dodgers in LA. Mm-hmm. It was me and David and him.
Yeah.
And he was in for 5 innings. And I just remember one thing, that if we can recreate this on a constant basis, then people are going to love it. So somebody got hit by a pitch. And, James Smythe texted me that A-Rod's been hit so many times and might be third most in baseball history. And I said, Alex, you got hit a lot. I said, why do you think you got hit so much? And he goes into, well, you know what? I crowded the plate. So I wanted to cover the outside of the plate. And the only way to really pitch me is to pitch me inside. You have to get the ball inside. And sometimes they miss and I would get hit. So I understood. So then I let it like breathe a beat. And I just said to him, I said, and also people really hate you. And he broke into laughter. I mean, if I could get that kind of like real stuff out of him, I think that would be great. And show a different side of him too. I think he shows more of that side when he's on the pre and post game on Fox. But I think that when he does games, he tries to become more of an announcer. So if I could get him just to be into a conversation, that's my job.
To me, it always felt like A-Rod, his preparation, I think it's part of what made him good as a baseball player, and some of the other stuff. But he like, you know, you'd hear some of these tidbits on Monday Night Baseball, and you're like, that was beautiful, Rod. And, you know, he came into the game with it. I feel like other times he almost got himself trapped a little bit in that way. But no, man, A-Rod, I goof around on my Twitter because his social media cracks me up. He's still got some goofy, like, teenage A-Rod in him that comes out when he's traveling to Packers games and stuff. And yeah, I think if you can package that with the baseball the right way, A-Rod's always going to have a target from some people. Like I know it went through Jimmy and I's head when you talk about Yankees, Red Sox, that first game. Yeah, I would stay off Twitter because I don't think Red Sox Nation is going to be too warm to you guys.
Is there a Red Sox Astros Sunday Night Baseball game you guys do it? that would be a fun one.
You know, a lot of it's going to be, you know, like for that first Red Sox game. I mean, the natural guest you want to get is Big Papi.
Sure.
So that could be fun as well. And maybe you get into Matt Damon. I don't know if we could actually get Ben Affleck for several reasons, but you're gonna want to get like Red Sox, Yankee centric. You know, it's not just gonna be baseball people. We're gonna try to get like actors and actresses and stuff like that, just to give it that kind of big feel like they did with the Manning cast. So it'll be interesting to see which ones we come up with. I'm sure A-Rod has quite the Rolodex.
The ratings for you, Rod, and Affleck would be incredible. How do you and A-Rod communicate? Is he a text, call, Instagram DM, Snapchat?
He's a text guy.
Okay.
But when like it's something really deep, he likes to FaceTime, which is weird, like because he could end up FaceTiming you at 12:30. At that point, you know, I just came upstairs from the basement working out, and you know,
yeah,
I look like a mess. But you gotta put the FaceTime camera on. So, but he likes when it's something like he just wants to get into something deep. He'll FaceTime you, but most of the time it's text.
It's an athlete move. Athletes love to FaceTime.
Also, when you're a good-looking guy, you want to FaceTime. When, you know, you're hideous like me, you stay away from it.
Oh, come on.
Not true.
We're not acknowledging that.
I had a question from when we were talking about the actual Yankees that I forgot to ask, or I don't know. We naturally moved on, and it was very enjoyable, but I'm going to go back now. I was trying to put this in an interesting way. I'm trying to think a surprise trade. We were looking at the Yankees roster, and like if they really want to make some changes, is there a surprise trade? I think Voit is the unsurprised trade. They seemingly tried to shop him. I was going to say Glaber, Gallo. If either of those got traded, what would your surprise or shock factor be?
I heard you say Gallo. What was the first name?
Glaber.
I don't think they're going to trade Gallo. I think that they think that Gallo can really be the player they thought he was going to be. And I think everybody would admit that he wasn't that player when he came over here. Maybe there was just a period of getting adapted to being a New York Yankee. I mean, it's funny. I was talking with Cameron Maben, who said, you know, the pinstripes are really heavy. Some guys could take them and some guys can't. He said, but if you could take it, it's a great place to play. But otherwise, if it's too heavy, it affects your play. So maybe they were just a little heavy for Gallo last year, but I think the Yankees are going to bet on him coming back. I wouldn't be shocked about Glaber, but the thing that if you trade Glaber now, you're not trading him at the top of his value. I mean, they did that with Frazier, and they ended up losing Frazier for nothing. And I think that they've held on to Gary. And, you know, if you traded Gary now, it wouldn't be at the top value. It'd be at no value at all. So I would be surprised if Glaber or Gallo went. Now, if you want to trade somebody, although he has a no trade clause, the guy that you think about, because I think that now there is an attraction to him, especially because the National League's going to have a DH, would be Stanton. But I don't think I would do that, because when Stanton's healthy, he's a beast.
Awesome.
But that's one to consider, because if you could get him to the West Coast, which is the only place I think he would even consider waiving his no trade clause, maybe that could be a deal. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
What would shock me, but that's a guy that you would be trading at his top of his value, because I think he had a pretty good year. And once again, down the stretch when he's healthy, and then he showed he could play left field, I think his value skyrocketed. And right now, you look at his contract, which once seemed onerous. The Yankees are responsible, I think, for $24 million a year. You can't get a player like that for $24 million a year. So it's kind of a bargain in today's game.
I know all those I was going to say, but I that would really upset me, because I think he is one season away from becoming
So beloved.
beloved, because he was so hated for no reason, and because of the contract, and because of, there's some clutch or whatever you want to say struggles in 18, and then obviously 19 he's hurt the entire season, 20 he's got hurt, but the playoffs were nuts.
Amazing.
Last year he hit, especially at the end. I mean, he should have had 2 home runs in the wild card game. He had absolute just like bombs in the Mets game. He was hitting home runs. I mean, just crazy. Whenever you needed him, he came through the big games. Like, he was drawn to him. He's handled the media so well, and without losing himself, from my opinion. Like, he has an edge. He pushes the knife right back sometimes, but respectful, and kind of like saying like, I don't think the pinstripes are too heavy, and they were like, fans were throwing weights on top of him his first 2 seasons. So I hope he becomes
I'm glad
loved.
you said that, because Don and Peter and I were talking about it. You see Julius Randle, right? Who was beloved last year, and now the crowd's getting on him, and he just can't handle it. And then Francisco Lindor and Javi Baez. This guy has never, fans rode him unfairly from the very beginning. Never said a word, never reacted adversely. He's there all the time for the media. He gives thoughtful answers. He has handled this whole thing better than anybody could have ever thought he was going to handle it. I think he likes it here. I think he has a great relationship with the players. They look up to him. They're kind of in awe of his talent. I think he's been amazing. He really has. And other than the injuries, which is a lot, but when he's a healthy player, you could see he's an absolute difference maker. I think teams are afraid of him. They are absolutely afraid of him.
The fear factor is real. I also love Cameron Maybin saying the pinstripes are for some guys. And by the way, casually, 285, 364, 858 OPS for Cameron Maybin. Easily his best numbers with any team.
Yeah.
So I like him saying that.
He was supposed to be a
confidently.
5-day player, Cameron Maybin. They traded him for like $20,000 or something like that from Tigers, White Sox, Cleveland. And
Miami, a lot of teams. He banged around.
And then Cashman raved about what he did for the clubhouse.
He's one of Boone's favorite players, guys. He was a home run in that season. He was great. He was unbelievable. And he's still just 34 years old. But yeah, his best season, you remember, he was a first-round draft pick for Detroit. His best season was that Yankee season. Everything clicked, and the players loved him, and the fans loved him.
Does you mentioned Don and Peter, your hangout crew outside of Yankees land.
Big John Boy Media fans.
Yeah, what's Peter like? Is he? I thought we were all short kings. It seems like he's normally instigating. Like,
is Peter short? Is he out? He's taller than us, right?
No, he's short.
Okay.
I'd say he's 5'7", 5'8". He'd say he's 5'9", but I think he's 5'7", 5'8".
Yeah, I'm 5'6",
so
5'9".
What's the disconnect here? Do we? Does he just need a big hug from us, or like what? What's the next step?
Tell you what it is.
Jealousy.
He's a jealous mule.
Okay.
He knows how much I like you guys, and he doesn't get it because I don't like many people.
Right.
So I try to tell him I appreciate people that work hard, that have an idea and reach for what they want to reach for. And like, it's a cliche, reach for their dream. And then to see it come to fruition, I think is kind of neat, because I remember you guys back when. And it annoys him that he can't figure out, because he always thinks that I only like things that, I could make myself bigger in. And I said, this has nothing to do with me. And he thinks I'm an egomaniac, and maybe I give him some reason to think that. But again, he's jealous that I like you, and he says you like them better than me, and I don't dismiss it, and that bothers him. So I think he needs some love from you guys so that he feels.
I think we'll send him, just a bunch of hoodies so he can get hoodies, hats, shirts. We'll just give him all the love he needs.
There you go.
How's
my brother who just poked his head in, like he always gets kind of a little like it's all fun and games, but he always like, why is he always saying this like to Peter? I'm like,
who's this?
My brother, Luke, who works here.
You upset the family.
Yeah, no, not you, but Peter. And I'm like, Luke, they're a 3-man radio show, and Michael can't compliment us unless he gets set up for it. So everyone's playing a great game for us right now. I'm like, it's okay, it's okay, it's all fun. He was like, why is he always saying that?
Brother, if it was a TV show, it'd be called 2.5 Men.
That's our show.
2 men and a baby.
Off the field, Michael K., what do we got? Anytime you post butter on social media, I'm locked in. How's the family? How are you? What? Any other Michael K. off-season 21-22 things we need to know about?
A lot of the radio, the desk that I'm sitting up right now is where I do the radio show, and it's got it's very tight, under my knees, and Butter comes in during the show and just like sets up shop underneath, and like will fall asleep during the show, so that's something. And now she's also learned to get in when late at night. She'll just Jody couldn't find her the other day, and she was looking around and she just found the desk again and was sleeping under the desk, so she likes that. I don't walk the dog. I don't feed the dog. I don't, I don't pick up poop when she, and I just said to Jody, if you want a dog, you got to take care of it. But the dog loves me the most, much to the consternation of Jody. Jody's listening right now, giving me a look.
It's because the dog knows where to find you.
What was that?
The dog knows where to find you. When I worked from home, that was the dog spot, because they were like, well, there's going to be warmth over there every time of the day.
Yeah. Callie wants to be a star, doesn't want to work at it. And Charlie, I think, is a pretty good ball player, so he didn't get it from me.
Ooh,
wow.
That's awesome.
Okay. That's huge.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I actually sent he's left-handed, and I sent a video of him to Boone, and Boone said, wow, he's got some skills. And I thought that was nice. And then this before Buck got the Met job, I sent it to Showalter. And then Buck sent down, no exaggeration, guys.
Stop.
He sent a detailed scouting report. I like his rotational hips. I like the way, it's just the whole thing. It was hilarious. And then Charlie likes to pitch too. And I had him throw some, and I videotaped that, and I sent it to Al, and Al sent diagrams like circling the elbow. The elbow has to come up. He has to strike. And this is when, Charlie was 6 years old. So there are people that are really, really into this. They really break it down for the people.
We need to send some Jake Blitzball pitching videos to Buck and just get the scouting report.
Oh, God.
He would do it too.
Man, I know we said we were wrapping up, but and we've gotten so far away from baseball, but you have to be stoked for this season. Not only the 2-week period, but Yankees Mets should be
awesome.
Peak it's been in a long time, and Buck, you just mentioned you sent a video of your kid throwing and he's just. We fell in love with him at Yes, because you talk about how A-Rod knows baseball. Buck every time would be eye-opening. When baseball does come back, you are right, and maybe this is how I'll start wiring my mind. It is going to be a beautiful time because, man, especially New York is set up.
I've talked to a lot of people, and they feel that one of the things that has been the Met problem over the years is the culture in the clubhouse. And most people in baseball think that the Mets made the absolute perfect hire because he's going to change that culture. First of all, he doesn't put up with nonsense, not in a bad way, not in a heavy-handed way, but he knows how. I mean, I saw him firsthand change the culture of the Yankees from the Stump Merrill Yankees to the Yankees that eventually won the World Series. He's just a master of getting things right. Everything has to be done in the proper way. I think he's grown. He's a little less heavy-handed about things. I think it was a great hire for the Mets. So that's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be fun for the radio show rather than the Mets being bad. I think both teams are going to be good, which is the complete opposite of what we have here in New York in basketball. So hopefully they get the CBA done at some point and we get some baseball. That should be fun.
Man, you mentioned Stump Merrill, which makes me think of Jacoby Ellsbury, and because they were catch partners whenever the insurance people came to spring training. Have you thought? And I don't have a question. That's just whenever I hear Stump Merrill.
You just want to say that, right?
You can't say Stump Merrill around us.
I just think of him at spring training and then them being like, Jacoby, go have a catch with Stump publicly real quick, and then okay, bye. So I haven't
Have
thought
you ever
about.
met Stump?
We never met him. Just seen him at spring training.
Like one of our first spring trainings, we saw him walking around like he was still the manager, and we were like, "What? Who is that?" And then we found out it was Stump, and it just all made sense.
He seems king of spring training when you go there.
He's really a nice guy, and if you think back at it, and those teams were so bad, he didn't have a chance. He really just didn't have a chance. They didn't have a good team, and he was handed the team from Bucky Dent, and it was an awful team. So. Everybody looks at it and go, wow, he wasn't a good manager. It wasn't that he wasn't a good manager. They didn't have a good team. They were awful. So it's amazing how things have changed from that time. When Buck Showalter took over, they've been a good team ever since. I know Yankee fans get impatient. We judge everything in terms of championships, but from 94 on, they've been in play every single year. And not a lot of fans could say that, which is kind of cool.
This is the first year where Ellsbury's not on the books, or at least wouldn't have been if he stayed through, which is incredible to think about.
Good for him.
I think Kagawa's off the books too, so got that going for us.
The boys.
Oh, that one final question. Do you think they'll sign one of the Japanese players, Kikuchi or Seiza? Because one of my theories is that the business is so good, and since Arabu, they've always had one. They've always had a representative from Japan. Arabu, Matsui, Kagawa, Tanaka, Kuroda. They traded for Ichiro. They wanted Ohtani. And now with Tanaka gone, last year was one of the first years where they're not getting those sponsorships, that press, those media. And I just always wonder if there is a business plan around it, and there's 2 Japanese players available. You think there's any sense to that?
I'm sure they'll be in play because, what you pay for the posting fee doesn't go toward any luxury tax. So that's important to them. And I just want to see them sign the guy Seiya.
Yeah.
Because,
Seiya.
possibilities are endless when he hits a home run.
Wow.
Yeah. Sterling's just going to steal your call. You just say Seiya and to you.
Susan, who is this player? I don't know how to say his name.
Do you think Sterling keeps up in the offseason, or he shows up spring training and just learns the names?
He is an inveterate reader. He reads everything. I've been trying for the last 10 years to get him to get an iPad. And we were at a football game at Yankee Stadium. I think the Notre Dame game, the one that was sold out. And his kids were there. His kids are great kids. And they said, what can we get him for Christmas? I said, get him an iPad. So he got an iPad, but he doesn't even want to try to use it. And I don't understand, Michael. I read newspapers. What do I need an iPad? I said, you could read every newspaper in the world, John. This would be your version of pornography. Don't you understand? You would love it. But I think the technology scares him. He's 83 years old, but every newspaper he picks up when he goes to gets breakfast, and he reads everything. He reads books. So no, he doesn't come in blind. He definitely follows everything.
All right, shame on me for even thinking it.
Yeah,
of course. Really, consummate professional.
I'm looking at 1920s Broadway plays to see which Seiza Suzuki call he'll go with. Looks like Blackbirds of 1928 was big at the time, so we'll see.
They'll come up with something.
Yeah,
always.
He won't be naked.
Well, always a pleasure chatting, and we'll catch up. And then if you're ever, we got to get you in studio at some point whenever you're free. I know you're the busiest man in baseball, but we'll get you in here and and in person in our nice new digs.
It looks really nice. I'm very proud of you guys.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks,
you got to pay rent on that, right?
Well, someone's doing it.
BBD.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Bye, guys.
Baseball.
And there you have it. Everyone go tell the Caster how awesome he is for joining us on our 695th episode. When we were at like 517, he texted, said, I want to be on 695. We set that aside, made sure it would happen. So happy to make that happen for him. This concludes the show. Go Yanks. Tell 'em, Grams.
Go Yankees.
Baseball. It's his new teammate.
Rod K. AK. The AK cast.
Roque.
Ooh.